Today we're talking about macro photography, the gear, the technique and the storytelling. I lately made a deep dive into macro photography and this is what I learned. Macro photography is more than just flowers and mushrooms. Macro photography is a deep dive into the world of hidden secrets, into the world of stories that you've never seen. It has a whole new potential of storytelling. I like a very minimalistic yet technical approach to macro photography. I like to shoot my things on a pure white background so they can stand for their own and tell their own story without any distraction. I want that the scratches, that the aging on my images, on the things that I photographed, that those things tell the story. First, let's look on the technical side. For macro photography, you need a few special things. First and foremost, you need a macro lens, or what I'm using, macro rings. Macro rings are a great budget option to macro lenses, because what macro lenses basically do is they turn every lens that you have into a macro lens. The way this works is you take a camera, for example this Sony A7. By the way, you can get those macro rings for almost any camera system out there and they are fairly cheap. These ones, for example, are somewhere between 40 or 50 bucks. So the way they work is you put them onto your camera body and then you put the lens onto the macro rings. The only thing they do is they increase the distance between your camera body and your lens, and therefore you can get much closer to your subject. As you can see, these are two rings, so the more rings you have, the closer you can get. So let's say you have a bigger object, you can just remove one of those rings and then put the lens there. Or if you have to get further away, just use the small ring. They're fairly easy to use, they're pretty cheap, and I can just suggest to anyone that wants to start with macro photography to get some of those rings, because they're way cheaper than macro lenses. And the results are pretty good as well. The next thing you need is, of course, a camera. You can do it basically with every camera out there, even with this old Sony camera, because you do not need any crazy autofocus or something like that. Of course, you can focus it manually, and even the autofocus of this old Sony is able to focus a macro shot. But what absolutely helps with macro photography is a camera with a high megapixel count. Of course, every detail matters. Everyone that follows the channel for a while knows it. It will be the Leica M11. Well, I know this is not a typical camera for something like that, but it has a 60 megapixel sensor and therefore everything you need for what I want to do. And macros are often focused by hand, especially the ones that I do, because I like to focus stack them. Of course, macro photography, you often have a very shallow depth of field, and if you want everything sharp, for example the ring again, if you want to see every scratch, well, you do not have another choice than to focus stack it. So my camera, Leica M11, and I'm taking this 40mm void lender that it's the only lens that I have currently for the Leica M system, and I will set it to a very high aperture, at least f8. Of course, like I said, very shallow depth of field, so I mean you have to close down your aperture. Also highly recommended is a tripod, because macro photography is very prone to shaking, because every shake, well, you won't see it in a normal landscape image or something like that, but on a macro image it will blur out extremely fast, so make sure your camera is very stable. I mean, you could do it without a tripod if you do not want to focus stack, but you need very high shutter speeds and therefore a lot of light to get a very nice lit image. And the last thing that is highly recommended is some kind of remote you can fire your camera with, because if you touch the camera, well, you're at a high risk that the camera is shaking, and like I said, you see the tiniest shake on your image. So I'm using the Leica Photos app, which is absolutely great. It connects pretty fast and you can fire it from there, and you also can do self-timer. If your camera has a good app where you can fire it from, use that. Otherwise, you have to use a pretty high self-timer so you can avoid that shaking, because you will have to touch the camera to fire it without the remote. First thing we shoot is the last piece on my coin project. I shot coins from every political system in Germany. I have a coin from the Kaiserreich from, I think it's 1875. I have a coin from the Weimar Republic, which was the first democracy in Germany. The coin is from 1924. I have a coin from the Nazi Reich, the Dark Age in Germany. It's from 1939. And what was missing is a coin from the Bundesrepublik Germany. This is a 2-Pfennigstück from the D-Mark, as it was called before. It was the currency in Germany before the euro came. And I mean, look at this coin. I mean, I could shoot this one. This is a perfect example. It's the same coin, but I mean, that's boring. And this coin, the corrosion, that's the life this coin went through. This is the story this coin has to tell. It's much more interesting, don't you think? And now it is time for the first shot. So let's set up the camera. I take the Leica M11, and these are the macro rings for the M11. They are from Novaflex, they're made in Germany, so they're a bit more expensive. Unfortunately, there are no Chinese ones for the Leica M11, there are only these ones on the market. They are around 200 bucks, but hey, still definitely less expensive than the 90mm macro that you can get from Leica. And also less expensive than the Lova, I think 65 you can get. Yeah, so let's start it. What I need is, I need 2 of the rings for my distance. So let's disassemble this quick. By the way, they are screw mounts, so not like the ones from Sony with the bayonet. Good thing is, you get the back end, you can screw it out, and it will be an adapter for the Leica screw mount lens if you need one like that. I mean, those screw mount adapters, I think they cost around $40, so yeah, at least you get this one with your $200 macro rings. Then I take off the lens, put on the macro rings, and then the lens. For the white background, I'm using this white glossy sheet of photo paper. It's just a cheap one. The main thing is that it's glossy. That means that it will reflect the light very good. So now let's take the tripod. The center column is already out. Take the sheet, put it onto something to get it close or to get it to the distance that you need. That's something that can be quite fiddling, but if you don't have macro slide like me, well, you need something like that treasure box to get the right distance. Then I do not only place this coin there. No, I take a second coin, a smaller coin, and place it beneath. And then I put the bigger coin above. And why I'm doing this is to get a nicer shade below the coin. I put it down below the camera. From now on, I do not touch the coin anymore. Of course, if I move it just a slight bit, well, the coin below would be visible in the photo. So the only thing I touch is the treasure box or the paper on top. Turn on the camera, and then I connect the camera to my phone. So that looks good. And now I'm firing the camera from the app. First shot. Did it come out beautiful? I mean, look at the corrosion down in the right edge. This shows that this coin definitely has seen a few things. That's the story this thing can tell, with all the scratches, all the dents and that corrosion. This coin definitely has a story to tell. On to the next shoot, and that will be my wedding ring. So this next shot will be quite different. I'm trying to balance my ring on this tripod here. Don't tell my wife. This is pretty challenging. Now here is the main flash. This is the one that will light the ring. It has a 90cm octabox in front, and well, we will fire it at 1/16 of its power on the ring. It's a nice big surface, so we will not have too harsh shadows, so we'll have a lot of room in editing later. And now, before we start, I will put the transmitter for the flash up here. And now let's do a quick test shot. And it fires. Nice. So now, same thing as before. I will take one shot after the other, always with self-timer. Little focus, steps, next shot. And I will do this all the way until I have my shots for the focus stamping. Finally, it feels always nice to end the project, and it came out beautifully. Absolutely stoked about my 4 coins. First from when Germany was a monarchy 150 years ago. Then the second one from the first democracy in Germany, the Weimar Republic. Then the third one from the Nazi Reich from 1939, the darkest age in Germany. And this one when Germany was reborn into the BRD. I'm just happy. I will hang them to the wall and be proud every time when I see them. So I hope I have encouraged you to try this yourself. It is worth the time to put in, because shots like this have a meaning. They tell a story. No one knows where this coin was, right? And even if there's someone that doesn't understand the story of the coin or doesn't want to interpret a picture, because not everyone wants to interpret images, well, it's still an art piece. It still looks artsy on the wall. Of course, something like that, beautiful color, nicely shot, contrasty, on a completely white background. It just looks nice as an image on your wall. So tell me, have you ever tried it out? And if not, give it a go, and I see you in the next video. Bye! Have you ever seen someone flipping a coin from 1875? Here we go!